Welcome to the Paranormal Zone, a podcast that's dedicated to giving a voice to the paranormal community. I look forward to tonight's show with Sheila, Renee, Broadway, and Empath, and one of our friends from Alabama. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Say hello to my co-host, Tom Spitalere from Essex County Ghost Project.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Sheila. How are you doing? How's the weather down there?
It's actually very nice. We had a lot of rain yesterday. The storms were pretty bad, but now today it's sunny and in the 70s.
Oh, good.
I live on the coast, yeah.
It was quite...
Sheila.
Uh-huh.
I'm jealous. You have Alabama football. We don't.
And the crazy thing is, I don't even follow it. I'm an anomaly.
Well, no, she's not an anomaly,
That's great.
Bob. She grew up in the Bridgewater Triangle, like she said. So she's from Brockton. So she's a BCE. She's a Flying Eagles fan.
Well, I was born in Massachusetts. I was raised in Tennessee. Now I live in Alabama. God only knows where I'll be next time. I'm all over the place.
Right.
Well, if you're a BC fan, they're playing tonight in the Frozen Four.
Wow.
BC hockey is playing Michigan.
Wow.
Boy, that hasn't happened since, what, the 80s? The BC hockey?
Yeah.
The Frozen Four?
Yeah. BU is playing Denver right now.
Oh, wow. That should be a good game.
Sheila, help us a little bit. Maybe educate our listeners a little bit. Can you explain to us what an empath does?
What an empath is, from my own personal experience, is I can feel and sense other people's emotions. I can tell what they're, not necessarily thinking or anything. It's not like telepathy, like a lot of people get us confused with. I can walk into a room and sense people's emotions, like a tuning fork or something. I can walk in and tell if the vibe is good or if the vibe is bad. I can tell if somebody's having a bad day. I'm very empathetic on people's emotions. Like a complete stranger, I could see a complete stranger their look on the face, and I've been known to walk up to people and ask them, "Do you need a hug?" And they're like, "Yeah, I do." And I'm just that compassionate with people, and that's my experiences. Now, does that mean that I'm a pushover for everything? No, it's not. I'm not a weak person or anything like that, and I don't just call for a free hug for everyone. But I do protect my energies. But being an empath, in my perspective, is just, it's my way of tuning into other people's. It's just like a radio station where the radio station's always on and the wavelength is there, the connection, if that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, it does make sense. Mm-hmm. So are you feeling energy and vibrations?
Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I can feel, like, for instance, if I walk into an area where the vibe is bad, like a negative energy, I get this nauseating vibration in like my solar plexus, like in my core, like my abdominal region and everything. It makes me feel really nauseous and my anxiety level goes up. And when I was younger, I couldn't discern that from other people. I always thought that was something to do with me. And then as I got older and realizing what an empath was, I knew that those were not necessarily my emotions. And that's when I learned how to kind of like, bubble myself and protect myself from those energies. And with that being said, when I walk into a room and if I feel the positive energies, I don't get that nauseated feeling or anything like that. I get this heightened sense of excitement, this heightened sense of just joy, and I just want to bounce all over the place, and it's a lot of fun. So if I go from one room to another room and I can feel, the diversity of people's energy, it's very draining sometimes. And by the end of the day, I'm completely spent, and I just want to take a nice walk by myself and just kind of like, chill out and mellow out my emotions.
All right. Wow. Now, let me ask you this. You said walk into a room and you feel people's emotions. What if you walk into an empty room?
if I walk into an empty room, even if, like, for instance, like if it was a room where there was a lot of activity in it from earlier in the day, sometimes that energy is residual and it will still linger just because, you know, energy is all around us. But with that being said, now if I walk into a vacant home and nobody's been in there for quite some time, the energy is pretty bland for me, if that makes sense. There's nothing like one way or the other to be felt for me.
Interesting.
It does make sense. Do some empaths pick up energy from spirits?
Yes. Now, each empath is going to be different. We're going to have our own experiences, our own stories. I know some empaths that are more sensitive than others, and some have the abilities to be able to see spirits, be able to see and feel, and even the clairaudient where they can hear certain things as well. So we all have our abilities that with different, I don't want to say levels, but just different ways, just like anybody with any kind of skill or any kind of, you know, talent. I mean, I don't know, a lot of people call, you know, empathy or being an empath, you know, a curse, but throughout the years, I've learned how to actually consider it as a gift. So, I mean,
I think it is a gift.
For me, I don't necessarily I can't see things like other people can. I just know things, if that makes sense. And that doesn't mean that I'm egotistical by saying, oh, I know such and such. There's a sense of knowing when you're an empath. It's just a sense of knowing. And if you're not an empath, then you don't really understand that because it's hard to explain that, you know?
So, Sheila.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
How old were you when you first figured out that you had these special abilities?
When I was younger, I always knew that there was something different. You know, like I said, you know, going into other rooms and stuff like that, I didn't understand that I was feeling all these other people's energies, their emotions. So with that being said, I was a mixed up kid. I didn't know that they weren't my feelings. Then as I got older, I started realizing, and I'm observing other people, and I'm like, wait a second. I'm feeling exactly what this person's feeling, or I'm feeling exactly what that person's feeling. And so then I became a teenager, and then later on, getting closer to my 20s, that's when I realized, hey, there's something more to this. You know, I'm not just a mixed up kid. And then when I found out the term empath, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not alone. Because for a long time, I thought I was alone because every time I tried to open up something like that when I was younger, people called me crazy. People called me weird. Things like that. Wow. And so I shut myself off for a long time because I was just really, I don't know, you know, when you're told you're weird or people laugh at you, you know, you tend to like shell up and don't want to talk about it. So, but then when I got older, I started researching things and just becoming more open-minded. And that's when I realized, hey, I am not by myself. There are others out there like this that have this ability, and it is what it is. It's being an empath. And that was so freeing for me. And that actually helped me open up and learn more techniques to protect myself from other energies. And like I said before, you know, now I know how to discern someone else's energy and say, okay, I know for a fact that this is not my energy, you know, so I know how to deal with it even better now.
Yeah. You know, we hear from mediums about this when they were younger, how their families didn't understand it and thought there was something wrong. And it must be really traumatic for a younger person, a child, that has this gift, and yet people call them weird. I mean, that's just so heartbreaking to me because I do believe it's a gift that you're given for some reason because we all don't have that. But it must be difficult to see the negative response to your actions when you're younger.
That was hard too, because, you know, growing up, I could feel other people's emotions, and I would start siding with other people. You know, like if this person's having a good day, oh, I'd want to go be with that person because they're having a great day. I wouldn't want to be with the person that's being negative. And then as I got older, people were like, oh, you're a manipulator. You're changing up. You know, you don't know what you want to do back and forth. No, it's because I was following the good energy. I wanted more of that. And that, you know, like you're saying, you know, it was hard growing up. And because I didn't understand what was going on. I had no way of opening up to people who didn't understand, who wouldn't even talk to me about it. So I was called a lot of different things growing up for things like that. So that's why, like I said, I just got myself bottled up, and it was my own little safe way, you know, until I got older and I realized, and it's a gift now, but when I was younger, I thought it was a curse.
Well, no, it's not. Yeah. And that's because people around us, and I hope our listeners don't do this, but there are people in this world that if it isn't black and it's not white, there can't be a gray.
Right.
It's either black or white. And that's the problem. And I see this all the time. And today it's even worse.
Yeah.
Because at the drop of a dime, someone's willing to call the state in on a kid. At the drop of a dime, at least I think when I was younger, at least, and probably you too, it was shunned upon, but you didn't have to worry about the state coming after you. Today, it's a drop of a dime. One parent doesn't feel that parent's doing right by the kid. It's a drop of a dime, and it's a headache after that dime's dropped.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, like I said, I was raised in the South, and, you know, and that was very shunned upon, too, because you just didn't talk about things like that because it went against church, it went against religion and all this other stuff because, you know, people are closed-minded. And I'm not saying that religion is closed-minded because I'm very spiritual and I have my own beliefs and everything. But growing up, I just didn't have that outlet.
Well, certainly we know organized religion frowns on, let's say, the paranormal in general. What they don't teach, they frown on, unfortunately. Did you have siblings growing up?
Told me that I was going to go to hell because of that.
Yeah. I hate to say where some of these priests end up themselves. My favorite line is sometimes on occasion I deal with stuff that's outside the realm and it can get real ugly in the paranormal, as Bob knows. I've known Bob for 20 years. And the first thing I tell when the people call me for help is, I called my priest, my minister, and they were looking for a large handout. That doesn't help the poor working class people. That might help the people in the mansions with the gated fence, but it doesn't help the working poor out. And that's what's sad. And you growing up and being shunned is not the first time I've heard this, you know.
Yeah.
It won't be the last.
Right.
To be open-minded, yeah.
So, Sheila, did you have siblings growing up?
Yes. I'm the youngest of three.
And how were your siblings? Did they accept this? Did they have the gift?
No, I've spoken to other family members, and no one else has ever, experienced or anything like that. Said that they had any kind of abilities.
Wow. That's interesting.
I know. I've always been told that it's a trait that's passed down, blah blah blah. But I've asked several family members, and no one's ever said, "Oh yeah, I'm like that too." But maybe they just don't realize it, or maybe they don't want other people to, look down on them.
That could be. Or it could have skipped a generation or two. It could have been a great-grandmother that had it that you never met that didn't really talk about it, or a great-great-grandfather on either side of the family. It doesn't matter, male or female. But usually you could trace it back. It seems like it skipped a generation, at least with your siblings. Now, on your parents' side of the family, whether it's skipped or they just didn't want to talk about it, that's going to be hard to prove. But it's sad when you can't even trace it back like that.
Oh, I know.
Now, do you have any?
My dad's no longer with us, but I kind of think that maybe he had something like that. I don't know, but he left us. He passed away 14 years ago.
Oh.
So, yeah, he was a young 62, but...
He could have. You don't know.
He could have.
He could have been. It could have been his side of the family.
Very true. Very true.
So when we look at empaths, some of the research I was doing, there's physical empaths, there's emotional empaths, and there's interactive empaths. Do you find those three categories exist?
all the empaths I've ever talked to, we've just been able to just say that we're empaths. And I've never spoken to anyone that has said, hey, I'm an emotional empath, or hey, I'm a physical empath. No one's ever just like categorized themselves. So when we just say we're an empath, we just feel it. So, I can feel your emotions. I'm not really sure what a physical empath would be, because I know emotions, they affect you physically, they can affect you mentally, all of it, So, I mean, who's to say? There might be some people out there that have that ability a little bit differently than what I would, and they may be able to consider themselves as a physical. So, that would be interesting to talk to if someone had that, differently like that.
Yeah, it just seems to me that all three are incorporated into one: physical, emotional, and interactive.
Right, I agree.
Yeah, that there isn't a difference between the categories that I can see.
Exactly. But it is interesting, though. I mean, I would love to be able to speak to somebody if they were able to, differentiate, all three categories.
Yeah, it's interesting. And so, do you think that we know that being an empath is a gift? There's no doubt about that. Why do you think you were selected, or who selected you to be an empath?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I don't know. I'm not really sure.
I think it's like being a medium. The mediums that we've talked to, their families, they have no mediums in their families. Their families, in some cases, when they were younger, really frowned on it terribly and held them back and everything else. And yet they have the gift of being a medium. I wonder where the gift comes from.
That's an excellent, question right there, because I've questioned myself too, like when I was growing up and everything. Why am I different? What makes me, more sensitive to other things than other people? And so that would be a great question. Why? I mean, I hate to say why me, but yeah, that's a great question. Why me?
Have you experienced people that didn't have this gift when they were younger, but developed it later in years, when they were in their 30s, 40s, and so forth?
I think sometimes life events can help someone become more aware, if that makes sense.
I agree with that.
That does.
Mm-hmm. Like, devastating situations, like that makes people become more human. I hate to say that because we're all human, but it makes, people are more empathetic, more sympathy, when they see others have to deal with things. And then when they experience situations themselves, then it becomes more relatable, and then that helps them with their, an awareness even comes out more so, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. Makes sense.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
I've had people come up to me before and they're like, how can you just go up to just anybody and be so compassionate and just give them a hug? And I'm like, it comes natural. And it's the same people that say things like that to me that are the complete opposite. They're like, I can't hug somebody. I can't do that. I can't just go and extend a hand. And I'm like, to me, that's odd. I can't see how someone could do
that. Yeah, because you've developed this and you've done it your whole life. I mean, since you were a young girl.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, yeah. In your bio, you talked about, which I found very interesting, that you often visit a moonlit forest. And you experience.
I was talking earlier that I'm very spiritual in my beliefs and everything. I'm not a Christian. I'm a Wiccan, meaning that I'm outside, I'm outdoors a lot. So at nighttime, I go outside, and I do love being out in the country. I love being out in the trees, amongst all of that with the moonlight and everything. That just helps me to calm my senses down and kind of like wash away all of the chaotic energies from the day. So, with the moonlight, Luna, the energies, and like I said, being a Wiccan. So that just makes everything more in tune with Mother Nature. Yeah. And that just helps to cleanse the day, to go out with the moonlight at nighttime and amongst the trees and just feeling the quiet, the solitude, and just bringing self-awareness to start over for the next day. So you're not carrying anything over.
Well, so you don't carry any negative energy or any of the energy over. That's good.
Exactly. And the moonlight is just a very soft, like it's a cleansing, washing, not a ceremony, but just it's, it's just a good ritual that I like to, do.
Now, when you do,
it kind of reminds me that the universe is kind of balancing its off. So you go through these emotions you feel all day, and at night you find solitude in, which we all the way think to some degree, but you find solitude in forests and in the peace and quiet of the universe. So kind of the universe offsetting the other gift. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And the universe is so many, it's full of energies, and the universe is massive, so it can be chaotic, but then it can be also extremely beautiful. So to go out there in the forest or amongst the trees, or even if it's just in a nice little zen area out in your front yard, for anybody, it's just, connecting with the universal energies and just, being at one, being at peace.
Yeah, which supports the fact of energy controlling a lot more than I think as humans we give it credit for. I don't think most people understand that type of energy. It's just taken for granted. Yeah, I think this is why people really miss a lot of what we define affectionately as the paranormal, because they don't take the time to understand how the universe works.
Exactly.
And that's
wrapped up in their day to even realize the bigger picture.
Right. And when I give my tours, or when I was, working with Bob working with Bob's teams back in the day, one thing we'd always do when I give my tours through my haunted cemetery and stuff, we always make an energy circle, and everybody's like, "Can I do that? Am I going to be able to do that?" Yeah, any of us can open up our third eye. We just have to focus, concentrate, and be there. We just don't do enough of that. Mm-hmm. We do not, as this human race, do not sit there and focus and refocus our energies. We're constantly going. I mean, I'm the prime example of that. I start at 6 and I go till 1.
Yes.
And I don't mean 1 p.m. I mean 1 a.m. So, Bob knows I'm a busy, but, it's hard to refocus. For some people, I can do that. But for some people, it's hard to refocus their energies just to relax enough, like you do, which is perfect.
Well, honestly, I went through a major life-changing event recently. I just got a divorce after 25 years. And for my personal gift to myself, I've always wanted to be a yoga instructor. And I'm also a mindfulness coach. I teach yoga and I teach meditation and everything like that. So that has helped me. And pranayama, which is breath work, breathing exercises. Mm-hmm. So that is another great form to, like what you were saying, just to bring that focus in, to help center, and ground you to, to where you can release things. And yes, unfortunately we are, we're always so busy, like the Energizer bunnies. We're constantly on the go. But to actually stop, even if you just stop for a few moments here and there, 2-3 times a day, just to bring that focus back, that is extremely important for your mental ability. And with that being said, you can open up your mind so much. And even like you were saying, your third eye, you can see so much more if you can just do that momentarily.
So why do we think more people don't do that?
Societal fears. Because I think it's ingrained that, we are constantly having to be on the go to make that money. We got bills to pay. My kids are grown and they're moved out of the house. But, when they were younger, they were in sports. They had band. I mean, I would work, 40, 50 hours a week. I'd get off work. I'd have to go and take the kids to the practice and all this other stuff. And then, on the weekends, there's friend's house and all this other stuff. And to stop and slow down for any minute amount of time, that was unheard of. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where everybody gets caught up in the rat race.
Now, here's a question for you. You don't have to answer this, okay? If you don't want to. We talked
Be careful.
I know. This could be a tough one. If you want to shoot me later on,
yeah,
you're more than welcome to. We talked about you weren't sure about where your abilities came from. Now, do any of your kids have? Names not included, ages not included. Do you think any of the kids have any of those abilities?
That's the funny thing. My kids and I, we have been they're in their 20s and 30s, but my kids, they're so open. They know everything about me, and my kids they're not just my kids, they're my friends as well. So I never held anything back as far as my abilities go, and I've talked to them about it, and they're like, "Man, Mom, that's really cool." And I'm like, "So, have you guys ever experienced anything like this?" And both of them, they're like, "No." I'm like, "Seriously?" They're like, "No." But, who's to say? Maybe, Mom they think, that Mom's just being a little trippy. I don't know. But my kids, they are very open-minded kids. Do I see any empathic abilities in them? I don't know. I don't want to call them out, if they're listening, right. I don't want to make them feel uncomfortable or anything.
No, we don't want to do that.
But my kids are extremely open-minded, and they're very compassionate.
So let me ask you this, Sheila. Can empath be taught?
That's a great question, because I've had a lot of people ask me, how can they be more, empathic and things like that. So, I mean, I hate to say it like this, but love is an unconditional emotion. That's something that's always going to be there. Love, can that be taught? People can learn to love people. People can learn to do so many different things. So with that being said, do, the right kind of practice, open-minded, like mindfulness coaching, meditation, and things like that, opening up our chakras, learning how to be still in just the moment and everything, that could open up so much within our psyche. So can that help open up our empathy? I believe so.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, I believe
Go ahead.
Bob, I believe if you can open up your third eye, because I've seen this happen when I do the big energy circles at my cemetery and stuff. Sometimes people can open themselves up and see things. They feel that spirit that they never felt before touch them on the shoulder, for example.
Right.
I mean, I'm lucky enough, or you're lucky, however you want to call it, depending on who you talk to in life. I'm lucky enough to be able to channel the spirit. And what happens is, one year, many years ago, we had an energy circle. I lifted up the two people on the side of me. So from now, when I do them, I put team members on both sides of me now, because there's two people from the public, lifted them off their feet. But I do see this in people all the time, and not the ones that say, because I'm always one of those tour guides that say, if you feel anything, this isn't school, just yell it out and let me know what you feel. And the people who do feel things, when going to the energy circle, it's the people who don't normally feel things pick things up, which is interesting.
Yeah, right. And see, I come from a little different angle. I think that the two things that enter into any of this, becoming an empath or a medium or anything like that, a psychic, I think, first of all, you have to be open to the gift to begin with.
Right.
Because I think so many people are closed to that gift. I think that more people would have the ability, for example, to be a medium if they only opened up to that, because we close energy off that we don't understand.
That is true.
Right. Well, and it goes back to society, and you watch all of these movies, and people who are psychic or empathic or anything like that, you see all these horror shows and stuff like that. So, I can understand why somebody would be more closed off, because they're afraid of it, and they're afraid what they might welcome in.
Right.
So that could be scary. I understand that. That makes sense.
Well, the other thing that hurts people's ability is, like you said earlier, when you were a kid, you felt this, this, and this. Forget your friends. I mean, kids are kids. Let's go to the adults in life with your parents. How many times your parents say, oh, you're just seeing things. There's nothing there. Don't worry about it. And you know what you're feeling and seeing. So they're forcing you to shut yourself down at a young age.
Good point.
Sure. You know what's another example of that, guys, is that 40, 50 years ago, people said to their children, especially a female, you can't be a police officer. You can't be a fireman. They said to males, you can't be a nurse. They said to females, you can't go fight in a war. You can't fly jet airplanes. So we conditioned our children for, I think, hundreds of years.
Absolutely.
At a very young age to say, this is what you can and can't do in your life. Thank God in the last 20 years or so that society and culture has changed that.
That is correct.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, you know, children now, if you follow college basketball, Caitlin Clark just proved that a female can certainly play at a very high level in basketball. I mean,
right.
She's probably one of the greatest basketball players that we'll ever see, maybe. So I think a lot of parents say to children, oh, no, you don't see anything. No, you don't feel anything. No, you know, that's because you had the wrong meal. Okay. We condition children to do that instead of opening up their minds and accepting this stuff. Because as parents, apparently, we're afraid of it ourselves.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And we don't want other people to look at us in a certain light because, it's out of the norm.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Exactly right. And that's why I have never shied away from being a paranormal investigator. I mean, I'm very proud of it, frankly. And I know even in my own family unit, I've got people saying, oh, my God, I can't believe you believe in ghosts. But I don't care because I do.
Bob, I got it too. We all have it. You just laugh at it.
Yeah, I started a paranormal group 25 years ago with my two children. That's how we started. So I just hope that listeners to this podcast, and we've said this before, Tom, I just hope that they at least look at children and younger people today that have these kind of interests and don't stifle it. Just give them the opportunity to play through it and see where it goes.
Yes, and they can get their own opinion.
That's right. Exactly. And that's what we should be teaching our children.
Mm-hmm. You know,
right?
Right. No, I agree with you. I have a good one. I won't mention names or anything, but this one you're both going to chuckle at, right? It was rude of me in a way. Yeah. I will admit later on I was a little rude. So I was at a family party, and I had a family member tell me, this is when I first started, Bob, just barely making the papers in this area, doing things, right? Why are you playing with demons? You're not supposed to be playing with demons. Okay. As we know, Bob, not every case has a demon. I think more people think they got demons in their house than they really do, right?
Yeah.
So come the family party, the holiday party, we go to the house. I'm just chatting it up with people. And the family member brought their priest to the house that year.
Oh, wow.
And he starts talking to me about the only thing the Catholic Church can do is this, this, and this. You're not supposed to be playing with demons. The Catholic Church is against this. It's what the Catholic Church does. Yeah. And I looked at the priest and I said, well, I'm happy how you believe, sir. I have all the greatest respect in the world for you. But don't tell me how to run my own life, number one. And number two, you may not believe in what I do, but obviously you believe in pedophilia. He walked away.
Oh, my God.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
He walked away.
That makes for a nice family gathering.
I said it quietly, not in front of everybody, but he walked away.
Yeah. I can see why.
Do not. The moral of that story is: do not tell you if you don't believe in it and your kids believe in it. There are plenty of good, reputable places and reputable people like Sheila out there that will help your kids. Go get them the help so they understand what they're listening, feeling, and hearing. Don't try to take it from them.
Oh, yeah. I think sometimes I was like a little more forceful on my kids. I'm like, come on, you got to tell me what you feel. They're like, Mom, I don't feel anything. I'm like, seriously? And they're like, Mom, just calm down. I'm like, come on. I think I wanted somebody on my team, And
well,
and
you
stuff,
were the exception to the rule of that one. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being an exception to a rule.
Touche.
Okay, so besides being a renowned empath, and you're certainly very knowledgeable, you're also an author of books. And you're an author of paranormal books, correct?
Well, my first book I wrote was a fictional book that I wrote about. It was called The Spirit Within, and it was released back in 2012, and you can get it on Amazon. And it was about a young lady who was coming into her own as far as abilities, like telepathic abilities and things like that, and she didn't know what was going on. So this is the crazy thing. People ask me if it was an autobiographical type fiction book, and it wasn't. But I just wrote, every time when somebody writes a book, they put their heart into it. So with that being said, it was a young lady who was coming into her own abilities, and it was interesting because she was going through some really crazy times in her life, but that's why I called it The Spirit Within. I got some flack before in the past because people were like, oh, but The Spirit Within, there aren't any ghosts in it. No, it wasn't the spirit about ghosts. That's where that confusion came at, because she had her own psychic abilities. She could see things, she could know things and stuff like that. So that's what that is called. So that's called The Spirit Within, and it is on Amazon. Now, my last book that just got released it's for Kindle, and it's called The Yin Yang Chronicles, Living in the Gray, The Balance Between Good and Evil. And the reason why I came up with that lengthy title, The Yin Yang Chronicles, was because it's for Kindle, and it is available on Amazon. And actually, I have a little special right now for readers, and the last day is tomorrow, where you can get your Kindle version for free. So if you guys wanted to get your own copy, go find The Yin Yang Chronicles, Living in the Gray, The Balance Between Good and Evil on Amazon by Sheila Renee Broadway. Okay. So you can find that. The first half of the book is strictly yin short stories. The second half of the book is strictly yang short stories. The reason why I did it that way is because the first half of the book has like 20-something yin short stories, all about good things in life, positive aspects, positive things, that feel-good vibe, the lighter side of humanity. The other half, the yang chronicles, that's the dark, the monster side of humanity. The monsters, the ghosts, the deities that come out and just lash out on people, all of that. So that's why it's called the yin yang. It's the balance between good and evil, because we as humans, we face that duality on a daily basis. And sometimes we falter from one side to the other, and it's a fence that we teeter on. So that's why I say living in the gray, because sometimes we're tempted to do one or the other more so. It's like having the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. So that's why I came up with that.
That's a real interesting way to come up with a title.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought the title when I saw it in your bio was very interesting, yin yang, because it truly does, as a statement, really does kind of give you a picture of life, right? I mean, we always have the good side, but a lot of us have a bad side too. We always have good things happen to us, and we always have bad things happen to us.
Absolutely.
And it's all part of that yin yang, correct?
Oh, yes, without a doubt. And, everybody's like, oh, you got to face, karma and all this other stuff. Yes, you do. I do believe in living a good life. But you know what? Sometimes it's inevitable. You're going to face a bad time in your life, like it or not, and it's just part of it. And it's how we learn how to face that duality and how we learn to cope and what makes us stronger.
What makes us stronger, correct. That's a very true statement. Let me ask you: do you can people buy your books direct from you?
No, I only have them on Amazon. Now,
Okay,
I've done
all right.
author talks before when The Spirit Within was released, because you can get that as a Kindle and as an actual paperback. I have done, like book signings for that, but I haven't done that one in a while because I took a hiatus from writing for a few years because I was, trying to do the mom thing with my kids growing up and everything. So, and then I got back into the writing and everything, and I just released the Yin Yang Chronicles about a month and a half ago. But that's strictly for Kindle on Amazon.
Yeah, how exciting is that, huh?
Any other books in the works?
What's that?
Any other books in the works?
Yeah, actually, I've got a few more that got some ideas that I'm working on and everything. So I'm getting back in the swing of things as far as getting those books done, and I'm really excited about the Yin Yang Chronicles. I was going to make that one even like with more books added into it, but we'll see, and I'll keep everybody posted. You're welcome to check out my site, SheilaReneeBroadway.com. I do a lot of mindfulness coaching on there. I do a lot of yoga. I made a post today on there about pranayama, going back to breath work. I talk openly about being an empath. I talk openly about my own paranormal experiences. And, if anybody ever wants to contact me, they can go to my website, SheilaReneeBroadway.com, and contact me there. So, and check out my updates, because whenever I have anything new coming up with my books and stuff, I always make all my postings on there.
Mm.
Yeah. Just give us that website again.
It's SheilaReneeBroadway.com.
One word.
Yeah, one word.
One word. Okay.
Oh, that's an easy one.
I was on your website. It's a great website. I mean, it's full of a lot of information. It's very well done.
Thank you. It just went through a huge metamorphosis, because before going through where the Wellness with Sheila, which is the title of my website, that before all that, it was strictly all paranormal. So I went through a huge change, and that was another reason why I came out with my book, the Yin Yang Chronicles, because that was like a metamorphosis book for me, because I was making my change with my site. Because prior to the Wellness with Sheila, my site was actually called SheilaReneeParker.com, because that was my married name. So a lot of people are familiar with me as far as that goes, but I went back with my divorce. I went back to my maiden name, Sheila Renee Broadway. So then my site changed. Everything changed to SheilaReneeBroadway.com.
Yeah, it's a great website. People need to visit that.
Yeah, check it out.
I'm sorry, Tom?
I said, yeah, check. In fact, I'm on it right now. It's a pretty cool website, so check it out.
Yeah, it really is. Well, listen, Sheila, you have been...
Well, we got plenty of time left.
Yeah, you've been a great guest. This has really been a great podcast. It was so informative, and we had some fun with it. I think that what you do is just wonderful. I'm looking forward to reading your book, which I will do very shortly. And maybe we could have you back on.
Yeah, we can have it back on. I got a couple questions for Sheila, because we still got some time left. Because remember, we had that rough start. We had about 15 minutes left, just so you know.
Okay.
And if we go over, we go over. So you started in the paranormal. Can you tell me one of your best paranormal stories, maybe?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's
or
a
a couple
thing. I mean, I
that you can talk about.
Mindfulness. I've got a lot of paranormal experiences. Oh my goodness, when you're in the paranormal, even when you do life changing, like with my mindfulness coaching, my yoga and stuff like that, the paranormal is still a part of my body, it's still a part of who I am. It's me, I mean, because I'm going to go do a paranormal event next weekend that I'm really excited about, a local one, and it's a paranormal investigation I'm excited about. So that's always going to be a part of who I am. One of my first paranormal experiences, if you go to my site, I actually talk about it on my site. My very first paranormal experience, I was a little girl, and it was after Sunday church, and I remember I was drawn to the cemetery. And as morbid as it sounds, I was drawn to a fragrance. And it wasn't as far as any of the church members, because I was led away, because everybody was walking out of the church. But I was led away to the cemetery, which was a few feet away. No one was in there, but there was this one grave that I was drawn to. So I remember being a little girl, just keep on walking to it, and I was drawn because of the fragrance. I kept smelling this perfume, and I just wanted to get closer and closer to this grave. And I don't understand, even to this day, I can never figure out why that fragrance was so strong over that one particular grave. And the closer I got to it, I wanted to be on top of the grave. I know that sounds so sick and so morbid, but I just smell it. I don't know, maybe it was the person's fragrance that she wore, because I remember looking at the grave, and it was an old grave, grass has grown over and everything else, but I just remember looking at the grave and just wanting to know more about that one particular person.
Now,
being a kid, I remember my grandmother came over to me and she's like, honey, we got to go. Come on, we got to go home. But that was one of my first, and I call it a paranormal experience because why was I so drawn to that one?
Right. Now, was that in Brockton where you grew up, or in another community?
No, that was in Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah. I was a little girl down there. And it was just a fragrance. And, to this day, I've never smelled that fragrance again. That fragrance was so beautiful. It was so floral, but it wasn't a heavy one. It was just so light, and it was just such a beautiful, and it wasn't flowers. It was an actual perfume. So that's why I know, and so I think it was the spirit of that person. I will always believe it was the spirit of that person.
Oh, it probably was.
To, open up.
So did anybody else smell that besides yourself?
No.
Just you.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah.
Well, doesn't that almost follow being an empath?
I think so.
Like
I said earlier, my dad passed away about 14 years ago, and he was a heavy smoker. I don't smoke anymore. I quit 23 years ago, but there's no smoking around me at all. And every great once in a while, I will smell my dad's cigarette smoke.
Which means he's with you.
Yeah, I think I'm sensitive to stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that means he's with you.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's interesting.
That might be the side to look into.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Tom, what's your memory of the biggest investigation you went on?
Oh man, I've done a lot of different really cool investigations. I've done some private ones, just me and like my ex, we would go out to do investigations, just local places, because we're always huge into history. I've been to the Beauvoir in Biloxi, Mississippi. I've been to several places in New Orleans, just doing my own.
Speaking of New Orleans, I got a good one. New Orleans. I had a case in Bradford. It's a family member of mine. They're still around. They're still alive. They went down to Fat Tuesday, and she found this tall, slender guy with a black hat. Wanted to give her some beads down an alleyway. Well, she got the beads. She went back to the hotel room, and the tall, slender man with the dark hat was with her in the hotel room at times. She got on the plane. She noticed it was on the plane. And this was, let me see, son's probably 16. Yeah, 16, I would say 16, 17 years ago now. They got back to Massachusetts, and she saw this tall, slender guy all over the place.
Wow.
Yep. So my team went in, and we dealt with the thing. I took the beads and locked them down. I own them with a lot of other haunted objects. The tall, slender man disappeared from her life, but it was quite scary because it took her a while to call me in. It didn't actually work like that. She got off the jet, then a week later she called me. She got off the jet, waited half a year before calling me.
Wow. She lived like that for half a year?
Yeah.
Wow. A lot of people don't realize the spirit attachment that can be, connected with objects. That's a really scary thing. People got to be careful.
So that was that's my Louisiana story. I bet you have some great stories down there.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of great stories. I've been to some really great places up in Minnesota. I've been to some great places in Ohio. I mean, Florida's full of like haunted places.
St. Pete, probably the most.
Great history.
St. Petersburg, probably the most haunted town, because I know one lady that runs a paranormal team out there. She's a University of Miami professor, but she also runs St. Petersburg paranormal team. And let me tell you, the story she tells me of some of the cases they're on, because she'll call me up every so often if she gets stuck with something for some advice.
Oh, I can imagine. I've driven through St. Petersburg several times, just never stopped. I've never had the time, going back to being completely busy all the time. But it's a beautiful old city. I love it.
Yeah. New Orleans got to be one of the most haunted places too, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, it is.
Just its culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of energy in New Orleans, and I honestly think energy drives a lot of this to me. Again, I because when people say, "Well, this town is the most haunted town in the United States," what makes it the most haunted town? Why there? Why not everywhere? Why not somewhere? You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah. What picks you? What was that one over something else? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Now, Sheila, do you still do paranormal investigations?
I haven't actually gone to any locations in a while. So next weekend, when I go to one about an hour away from where I live, that'll be the first one I've gone to in a few years, and I'm really excited about it.
Tell us about that one.
It's Blakely. It's an old battlefield. So if you guys look up Blakely in Spanish Fort in Alabama, it's got a lot of great history. It's from back in the Civil War days.
Blakely?
So
wow.
I thought,
Blakely.
yes, I thought Blakely went further back than the Civil War, like the French-Indian War.
Oh, it might be that too. I'm not really sure in all the history. I'm not really sure. I know there's so much history.
I've heard of Blakely. That I've heard of.
And that's one I'm going to go to next weekend. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Sounds
like
it.
Now, is there a large team going to it?
Yes. From what I understand, the event is already sold out.
Oh, it's a fundraising event, Bob. That's what it sounds like to me. A fundraising event.
I'll send you guys the link to show you. So you'll understand what it's about. Yeah.
No, I've heard of that. That sounds like it's going to be a fun time.
It will be.
That sounds like a real fun time.
Oh, yeah. I love history. And, down here is just so full of, because there's Fort Morgan down here. There's Dauphin Island and Mobile. I live within 45 minutes of Mobile, Alabama. I mean, there's so much history down here. It's great. And then Pensacola, I don't live far from Pensacola. There's a lot of great history from there. And it's just amazing.
So you're not that far from the Florida border?
Nope. I'm about 20 minutes from Florida.
Oh, so were you in the tornado warnings and stuff? I know.
Yeah, we had a lot of crazy stuff yesterday, but we were fine. A lot of businesses closed down half a day yesterday because the weather got pretty scary.
Well, I have a friend that lives in South Carolina. If they get 2 inches of snow, they're shutting down the whole town.
Oh, well, we don't get snow, but with the winds get heavy here, that's what gets us, because they don't know about storms and stuff, because, it can be, pretty scary and hectic. I think the winds yesterday got up to, 50 miles an hour yesterday.
Oof.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty severe. I spent some time down in Gettysburg. And again, when you visit the battlefields, it is amazing the emotions you have just being there without even an investigation going on. You can just feel the suffering that went on and the conflict that happened.
Yeah, because I've heard that's one of the bloodiest battles up there. I mean, all of everything, and not just the deaths, but all the amputations, everything that went on in that place. I mean, it was just.
Yeah,
I can only imagine. I've never visited there, but I've talked to a lot of people, like you were saying, that the energy is just heavy.
Antietam was the bloodiest, but outside of it, Gettysburg was pretty ugly too. I mean, and down south, St. Petersburg was one of the last places the Civil War was fought, and that was a real bloody battle that day.
Yeah.
The Vermont regulars lost a lot of men that day, but they were able to hold off the Southern crew. But it was very bloody. In fact, the only reason why the North won, the Vermont regulars, the Green Mountain regulars, actually charged a fortified position.
Wow.
They lost a lot of men doing it, but it drove the Confederate soldiers out of it. But it was a very ugly battle. That's another reason why. And St. Petersburg goes back to the Spaniards, as we know. So, I mean, that's quite the area down there. And even, Louisiana, Alabama. We talked about Louisiana there a little bit earlier. What a lot of people don't know what happened in Louisiana early on. There was a battle at Fort Detroit in Michigan, and it was during the French Indian War. And when the English finally took the fort, they found English body parts all over the place.
Wow.
So the English, in return, kept one kid alive, one Native American, and one French kid, loaded body parts of French soldiers and sent them south to Louisiana, and did the same thing with the Native Americans and sent the thing north. And that pretty much broke the back of that end of the French Indian War. And all those body parts ended up in Louisiana.
That is morbid.
That's very morbid. I mean, thank God we do, a podcast show here. Sometimes you can't do this on, public access TV. But it is very morbid, very sad, but it leaves a very sad taste down there. And that's why the South, on top of the slavery issue that was down there too, of course, and all the, they say there's no graveyards on properties down there, only where they've acknowledged them. Well, even up here in the North Country, back in the 1600s, if you died, they buried you in the garage or the tree 25 feet from the barn. Well, if that house still exists today, the barn might exist if you're lucky, but the tree doesn't. So where's the guy buried or the family's buried? Same with the down south. Sometimes those were just dug holes, put in the ground, no markers, no nothing. Mm-hmm. And those energies survive. And what's sad about it is then somebody comes in, they buy up the land, they develop the land into more housing, and you got spirits running around, the people going, I don't know why I have spirits here. When I remember this land as a kid, it was a wide open field. So why would there be spirits on my property? Well, what was going on that wide open field 100 years before you were born or 200 years before you were born? That's the bigger picture.
Oh, and that's the truth.
Yeah, it is the bigger picture.
So many people died, throughout the millennia of the existence of humanity. I mean, there's bound to be spirits. I mean, for anybody to sit there and say, oh, ghosts don't exist. Yeah, I mean, I can argue that all day long from my own personal experiences. But you can't tell me, with all the people that have been buried on this planet, I don't know. I find that unfathomable, that there aren't any spirits.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that for people that don't believe that spirits exist, are really not opening their minds up to me. I'm doing an event on Saturday at a meeting house that dates back to the early 1700s. And, Sheila, every time I go in there, it's really a spiritual experience for me. And I think I've been doing it for many, many years. And I think that the spirits in there know me. I feel like when I go in there, I'm home.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. And it's very deep. And I've been in the paranormal for 20 years, and I've never experienced that feeling that I get when I go to the Sandown Meeting House. I sometimes go up there at night by myself, early in the evening, and just sit for an hour or two alone, because it's such a moving experience for me. So when you were talking about the moonlit forest, I kind of related to that.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you were able to have your own connection.
Yeah, I think we all.
Yeah.
I think we all
Yeah.
do, Bob, because I have the same connection with the Dustin Garrison house in my cemetery. Sheila, I do run a cemetery in Haverhill, Massachusetts. I've been cleaning up that mess for a while, and I'll just sit there, broad daylight, pitch black, 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's very, very relaxing at times. And I've connected with most of the spirits in there.
And people will say to me, aren't you afraid of being in there by yourself? And I said, no, I've never been afraid in there. Yeah. And, it's like any place. You hear noises and voices and, there's a lot going on up there. The spirits are very active, but I've never had any fear at all.
Nope.
Because you feel
I have
being outside and everything at nighttime when I'm under like the moonlight and everything. That is just my sanctuary. I feel so connected. And people are like, "Why do you walk at nighttime? Aren't you scared? Anything can happen to you." I'm like, anything can happen any time of the day. That's when I feel safest.
Right,
you can peace. I feel at one.
No, I get that.
Now, when you're out there in the forest at night, have you ever had a bad experience?
Well, I mean, growing up in the country and everything when I was a little girl, I mean, we lived out in the woods,
Yeah.
And so I would always hear things. And I think as I got older, I got used to the sounds of nature. So things like that don't scare me.
Well,
they don't scare me.
But you see, nature's never taken any action against you.
Mm-mm. No. And people are like,
right?
What if you're walking around and you get bit by a snake? I'm like, I've never even had that encounter. I mean, I remember one time I went walking during the day. This was a couple years ago. And I looked down and I thought there was a stick and it was a snake. And the little snake looked at me and I just let it walk, like scurry across. I mean, I don't get scared over things like that. I mean, people are like, you're just stupid. I'm like, no, I just feel safe.
I hate to tell you, whether they're venomous snakes of the south, constrictor snakes of the south, or the northern snakes, most snakes are afraid of you. You get bit if you step near them, correct.
Right.
But if you leave them alone, they don't want to give you their venom. They rather keep that for an animal that's going to attack them and kill them.
Yes.
So they'll just slither along the way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm good. I feel safe. And, there have been a few times with my house that I live in. I think it's a transient location as far as spirits like passing through. When we first bought this house, I felt a connection, like there were spirits there. And every now and then I could see something like out the corner of my eye. And with that being said, when I go for my walks and stuff at nighttime, I'm still not afraid. People are like, that would just freak me out. I'm like, I've never felt scared.
Even in my house. Even in the cemetery at night, I'm not afraid of anything. You know what I'm afraid of? The human element, not the spirit element. The human element. That's more scary than the spirit element is.
I agree. Most definitely.
All right. We're coming near the tail end of the show. We went a little over, but, we can do what we want on the show. Is there... So if anybody's listening in the southern region, and we have listeners from all over the world, and they need to get a hold of you, Sheila, how would they do that?
They can contact me and go to my website, SheilaReneeBroadway.com. There's a contact me page on there. Just click onto that and send me an email or send me a message, and I will respond. Or if you want to, you can look me up on Facebook, Sheila Renee Broadway. You're going to see Wellness with Sheila. That goes back to me being with like yoga and mindfulness coaching. I teach that. And you can also find me on Instagram and X, which used to be known as Twitter, but just look me up at Sheila Renee Broadway on the social media and connect with me there, and I'll reach back.
All right, Bob. Anything else you want to say tonight? This has been a great episode.
It's been a great show.
Me be on your show. I've had a lot of great time and everything. It's been so much fun.
We'll have you back. Well,
listen, you got to come back on and tell us how your experience in the paranormal next weekend goes.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'd love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Sheila, thank you so much. We appreciate you being on, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. And again, I appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so much. You made my night.
No, we thank you. You helped make our night this week over here. So we're very appreciative of you. You made the night of everybody listening. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. So,
Sheila, we will send you a copy of this. We'll send it over to your email address.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I'd love
and you
that.
can share it with all your friends.
Yes.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, Bob,
God bless.
another great show. Sheila was a great speaker tonight. Yes, tonight. Yep. Next week, we're going to go from an empath tonight to way out of this world, aren't we?
Yeah, we get Steve Famani from one of probably New England's best expert in UFOs coming on.
Yes, we do. So we're looking forward to that. So stay tuned for the next episode.